And welcome back to another devotion. I am Pastor Roy Carlin here at Woodlawn Christian Church in Lake City, Iowa, and this devotion is for Thursday, May 8th of 2025. We are in the book of Acts, and today we've arrived at chapter 15. We left off on Tuesday, and in chapter 14, with Paul and Barnabas having completed the first missionary journey, that kind of elongated oval trip that they took. They've gotten back home and they've reported all that they've been doing. Remember, though, that whole time they were being pursued by these Judaizers, these guys who were complaining about them, no matter where they went, and causing trouble for them no matter where they went. But nonetheless, they've got those churches planted, and they got the good work done in spite of the folks that were trying to stop them, to stymie them, if you will. But they are in Antioch. They've been there for no little time, it said. They've been spending quite a bit of time there. And today we're going to pick up, as I said, with chapter 15. This is going to bring us into the Jerusalem Council, which is an important council, if you will. Very important. We're not going to quite get to it today. We're just going to look at the first 5 verses today. We're not going to take any bigger bite than that because as you're watching this, I'm away at a conference in Illinois. So I'm going to keep this one short because I'm pre-recording it, and it will be scheduled to be released automatically onto YouTube while I'm gone. And then I will post it quickly to YouTube, or not to YouTube, it's already on YouTube, to Facebook and LinkedIn and whatnot. So with that, let's deal with the first 5 verses, verses 1 to 5, in the 15th chapter of the book of Acts. But some men came down from Judea and were teaching the brethren, unless you are circumcised according to the custom of Moses, you cannot be saved. And when Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and debate with them, Paul and Barnabas and some of the others were appointed to go up to Jerusalem to the apostles and the elders about this question. So being sent on their way by the church, they passed through both Phoenicia and Samaria, reporting the conversion of the Gentiles, and they gave great joy to all the brethren. When they came to Jerusalem, they were welcomed by the church and the apostles and the elders, and they declared all that God had done with them. But some believers who belonged to the party of the Pharisees rose up and said, "It is necessary to circumcise them and to charge them to keep the law of Moses." Now, one thing we want to note, these 5 verses start with and end with the same thing. With these guys, you got to get circumcised and you got to abide by the laws of Moses. So it's a little sandwich, if you will. It's a chiasm is what they call that. So we're going to deal with this issue of circumcision. Now, originally, in verse 1 in chapter 15, it says, but some men came down from Judea. So you have to wonder, are these different guys than the guys that have been ghosting them, if you will, shadowing them all the way around on their missionary journey? That was some very dedicated trolls, wasn't it? Those guys, we call them trolls today in this day and age. Those guys were, for trolling, they were dedicated. That was no small trip and no easy trip. That would have been a difficult, arduous trip to do. So, nonetheless, we start with these guys complaining. We end with these guys complaining. In the middle, they've decided you got to go and get this settled once and for all. So you're going to have to go to Jerusalem and deal with this. Now, Paul and Barnabas, as we've talked about all the way through here, their modus operandi has been to go to the synagogues, and very much always it was Paul's modus operandi, his MO, was to go and to pick off those God-fearers, as I talked about before. Those guys that had tried or had adopted the ways of the Jewish God, but hadn't gone all the way to converting because they have to take that final step, that circumcision stuff, which is not something that one would do flippantly. That'd take a lot of consideration and a lot of prayer would probably be in order for that. Not the least of which because you're in a day and age when there are no antibiotics, and dying of an infection was a very real thing. That's one thing. Infants have a little better immune system sometimes than we do. They don't tend to get the infections quite badly sometimes. And they heal quicker. That'd be a bigger deal than infections. They heal quicker, so they're not as prone to infection. At any rate, they are. This is a big deal for the people that are going to convert. And as I've said before, it was my mentor Jesse my mentor Jesse Brown, Reverend Dr. Jesse Brown. I've talked about him before. I think I'm not sure. It's been a while. Jesse was an Old Testament theologian. He taught at Duke University. He taught the Old Testament there, the Psalms mostly. He was a scholar on the Psalms, but he was also a scholar about the Dead Sea Scrolls. He was one of the first people to work on the Dead Sea Scrolls, to do the translations. Some of the scrolls, he was the very first person to translate some of them. So he was an Old Testament expert, if you will. That was his degree. That was what he taught about. And so he always agreed with me when I said that Paul was selling Jewish light, and that's what he was doing. And they kind of came up with that name from what Jesse was saying, that he was selling an easier way to be Jewish. So I called it Jewish light. That you could be Jewish without adopting the law of Moses, without having to go be circumcised, which again is a big deal for an adult man. Big deal. That's not something you want to have done at all. And so that's what caused the rub. Now remember that first verse, but some men came down from Judea. That's very reminiscent of in Galatians when you have some men came from James. And were these the same guys? Were they the same people that came to him there? Don't know. It's hard to know. If they were, they apparently didn't get the message about the Jerusalem Council, because that took place. Those guys came to Galatia after the Jerusalem Council. These guys are coming before. Could be the same guys. They just don't give up, and they don't get it. And that will bring us to the point where we talk about the Galatians version of the Jerusalem Council and Acts version or rendition of the Jerusalem Council, and how do those two mesh, or do they or don't they mesh well? But that's going to take a lot longer, and that's why I'm going to leave that for a separate video. We will talk about that next week. It'll probably take us a couple days, probably Tuesday and Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday, excuse me. I don't do Wednesday as devotion. Tuesday and Thursday, both days, we'll probably be talking about that. But with that, I'm going to let you go. Have a blessed day. Be a blessing to someone today. If you enjoy these devotions, please do like and subscribe. We'd like to have you come back again, but we'd like you to help to share the channel, share these videos if you'd like. We'd love for you to do that. We don't have a whole lot. I don't have a whole lot of subscribers, but we always welcome more. God bless you. God loves you. Take care. See you again.